Yo guys, Codelife here. So in this video today guys, I'm going to cover the best competitive settings for Fortnite in Season 3, so you guys can jump into the newest season with the highest FPS and lowest amount of input delay, along with a few other huge advantages you need to use in Fortnite right now. Starting off guys, we've got all of the Fortnite settings. Inside of the video tab right here, you want to set your windowed mode to full screen for less input delay. Resolution, I highly recommend using the native 1920 by 1080 as that's what the majority of pro players are using right now, but you could always use a stretched resolution, which is also quite popular for the following advantages. The first advantage is an FPS boost, as with the graphics quality becoming a lot lower, you obviously get more FPS. And then the second advantage is having bigger player models, as with us lowering the resolution, this makes everything look or appear a lot bigger, so hitting enemies is a lot easier than it ever was before on native resolution. But I must mention that stretch resolution does come with one catch, and that is that you'll get lower FOV, which puts a lot of people off, even with them two great advantages. If you do want to use a stretched resolution though, I've got some great ones on screen right here, and if you want a tutorial on how to set it up, be sure to check this one out on screen as well. I'll leave a link in the description below. For frame rate limit, this can either match your monitor's refresh rate, or alternatively you can just use unlimited if that feels better for you in game. For graphics, brightness right here is personal preference. Here's what it looks like in game when you increase your brightness from the lowest amount to the highest amount. You can see it obviously brightens up the game. In my opinion, I think the default brightness looks the best in this season because everything is already quite bright. And then same with colorblind mode, this again is personal preference. Here's what no colorblind mode looks like. Here's what do tune up looks like. Here's what Pro Tune Up looks like, and then here's what Tri Tune Up looks like as well. In my opinion, I think having colorblind mode off this season is the best option, as it's a really good balance for all of the different colors going on in Fortnite Season 3. For graphics, I firstly recommend all of you launch your game using the DirectX 11 rendering mode, because what we're going to do is we're going to change all the settings in this rendering mode, and then we're going to switch over to the performance mode rendering mode. The reason why we're doing this, guys, is because all the settings that you change on DirectX 11 apply over to performance mode, which sounds mental, but that's how it works on Fortnite. To begin, we're going to take a look at this new anti-aliasing setting. If you guys are like me and you don't like how anti-aliasing works, like you don't like how it smooths out sharp and jagged edges, you want to go ahead and turn this off. But if you guys do like how this setting works, or rather looks in game, then feel free to turn it on. But what you want to do is you want to turn it on to the fast approximate anti-aliasing option, as that'll give you the best FPS out of all of them from my testing. But for me, like I mentioned, I don't really like the setting, how it looks in game, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. 3D resolution, this should be on 100% for the best visibility possible, but if you guys are struggling for FPS and you want more FPS, then feel free to lower it in game, but do bear in mind that your game will become more pixelated, as you can see on screen. View distance, this should be on medium or higher, as it lets you see players and items from a much farther distance, whereas near will cap that distance to not be very far at all. Shadows, you want to go ahead and turn that off straight away, as that will kill your FPS. For textures, I recommend using the low option for the majority of players out there, as this will give you the most FPS. But if you guys do have a high-end graphics card, you may want to use either the medium setting or the high setting on the textures, as you might get more FPS using this, because what it does is it basically helps the CPU process the graphics, as you're essentially giving the GPU more power to help process everything on Fortnite. So it does sort of go hand in hand, and it might actually give you more FPS. Auto download high resolution textures and reminders should both be set to off, as this can actually increase your ping. Effects should be turned off, as this can decrease your FPS. Same with post-processing, just go ahead and turn that one off as well. For advanced graphics, you want to go ahead and turn off VSync, turn off motion blur, show FPS, this is personal preference. You want to set the rendering mode back to performance mode, as this will give you the most FPS possible. Do remember though, after restarting your game, you must choose between low meshes and high meshes. Low meshes is better for performance, as it looks like this in game, whereas high meshes is better for visibility, as it looks like this in game. Allow multi-threaded rendering should be turned on if your CPU has 4 cores or more. If it doesn't have 4 cores or more, you should turn it off. This GPU setting should be turned off, as it can actually decrease your FPS, and latency markers should also be off, as all that does is monitor your performance. NVIDIA Reflex Low Latency mode should be set to the on plus boost option, as this will give you the lowest amount of latency, and yes, it will be applied secretly to the performance mode, even though it is technically a DirectX 11 setting. And finally, you want to set the latency flash to be off. For game options, I would recommend firstly using the sprint by default option, as this setting will allow you to sprint automatically without having to hold down a keybind, thus freeing up a keybind for you, which you can use on something else. Auto open doors, this is personal preference. I know that some edit gods do prefer having it off due to it being useful for control in certain close range fights. They obviously don't want the doors to automatically open when you get close to them, but on the other hand, you can have this option turned on if you want the ease of doors automatically opening for you when you get close to them. Hold to swap is a handy one to use, as all you need to do is walk up to a weapon and then hold it and it'll swap at that weapon for you. I recommend using this one in my opinion. Toggle targeting, this has to do with aiming. Off means you hold down the right click to aim down the sights, whereas having it on means you need to click manually every time you want to look down the sights and then click to obviously unlook down the sights. Disable pre-edit, this is one I actually recommend using and I explained why in this video on screen. I'll leave a link in the description below. Confirm edit on release is a setting that is highly debated in the community, and to find out which one you should use, I recommend watching this video where I go into depth on if you should have it turned on or turned off. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. Then for the rest of the game options right here guys, these are all honestly personal preference, except the replays. If you want more FPS, you want to go ahead and turn off the replay options right here, and then these brand new settings at the bottom. What these do is they help you configure your monitor settings, because if you click on the setting and then configure your monitor settings from using the buttons obviously on your monitor, you can see what changes you're making a lot easier when having this setting turned on. For HUD scale, I personally prefer my HUD percentage on 80%, as it's a lot lower than the default one, and the default one is just too big in my opinion. For the rest of the settings, you want to have map and backpack keys off, quest progress off, and for the rest I honestly recommend having them either on or off. As you can see, I've got them on right here, but make sure you have reticle ammo indicator turned on, as I think it's very useful to see an indication of how much ammo you've got left at the center of your screen. You don't need to look to the bottom right, you can literally just look at the center where your crosshair is and you'll see it. Touch and motion options are for controller, and it's something I myself am not too familiar with as I play it on mouse and keyboard, but for this guys, what I recommend doing is checking out what the pro players are using to get some inspiration on finding what the best settings are for you. For mouse and keyboard sensitivities, I personally recommend that you guys start off using a sensitivity from anywhere between 6.5% to 8% on 800 dpi. The reason why I recommend this sensitivity bracket right here guys is because it's classed as a medium sensitivity, which gives a balance of aim and mechanics. It's also what most pro players actually use. Same with the DPI, most pro players are using between 800 dpi and 600 dpi, and the reason for why that is what I explained in this video on screen, which I'll have a link to in the description below. But if you guys are curious of what your ADPI is with your current sensitivity, just head over to gamesettings.com. I'll leave a link in the description below, and on there under the ADPI calculator, just select the Fortnite game, type in your mouse sensitivity, and then also type in your DPI, and this will output your ADPI where you can see if you're on a low, medium or high sense. For controller options and sensitivities, this again is something I myself am not familiar with as I play it on mouse and keyboard, but again I highly recommend going and seeing what the pro players are using, like what sensitivity they play with, so you can get inspiration for yourselves, and then from there you can literally micro change your sensitivity to find the best one for you. Same with the controller options as well. Like, you might be surprised a pro player might be using something that you're not, so seeing what a pro player uses can definitely benefit you. For audio options, the sound quality option is personal preference. Low will give you more FPS, whereas high will give you lower FPS, as you can see right here. 3D headphones, I have this turned off, but it's kind of personal preference. Visual sound effects, this should definitely be on, as this will give you an advantage of being able to see surrounding enemies around you very easily because of that visual indicator right there. And it's amazing as well because you can literally see sound effects that you can't actually hear, such as players hiding and sort of medkitting in like a corner where you literally can't hear them, but that visual indicator will direct you to them. Aside from the Fortnite sound settings though guys, you can go into Windows and modify these to make the footsteps sound more louder and accurate. If you want your Fortnite to sound like that, I'll leave this video tutorial in the description below. For keybinds, this is another very complicated one that really does require its own separate video to talk all about it. But for this one guys, I recommend again heading over to gamesettings.com and finding out what the pro players are using for their keybinds. In addition to that guys, you all need to be using double movement if you're on PC and you do not have a controller. What double movement does is it gives you controller-like movement but on keyboard. And yes, it is 100% allowed by Epic Games, but recently for some reason some some lands like DreamHack have stopped allowing people to use it, and I did a video all about it on screen right here, link below. But for double movement, guys, there's two free programs that the majority of pros are using. They're either using Wooten, which is very simplistic, all it takes is one click to get double movement and you're all good to go, or alternatively you can use keys to X input, which is more advanced, but you can benefit from those advanced features. And finally, guys, we've got the account privacy tab. In here there's a couple of options you should turn off to gain more FPS, which are the following. You want to turn off social notifications, you want to turn off show season level, you want to turn on hide player names if you want to prevent any glitches from happening. If you have no idea what glitches I'm talking about, check out this video on screen, I'll leave a link in the description below. And for the rest of the settings, you just want to copy what I've got on screen. And that right there, guys, is all the best competitive Fortnite settings in Season 3. If this video helped out, be sure to drop a like on it, subscribe to the channel, and also use Codelife in the Fortnite item shop or when buying that brand new battle pass. I'd appreciate that a ton. Anyways, that's all I've got for now. Catch you all in the next one. Peace.